so we really just kind of iterated through that, with this kind of high-level direction. We wanted to do something different in mind.
Yeah, from the outset, Kalamanda was always described as a mining village, but in the original sketches, it was actually a much smaller part of what was Kalamanda. But as we started developing the map and working with the different assets that we had, we really became more and more attracted to this mining concept, because by going down the mining path, we could do some really cool things that you don't see on Summoner's Rift or Twisted Tree Line. We have a lot of visibility into mine shafts below the ground that create a lot of depth on the map, something that doesn't exist on our other maps, and also allowed us to really accentuate these new animated props that we have in the map, the idea of these machinery that are working with the stone, moving crystals around, mining from the ground, and really create like a living and breathing environment by wrapping the entire map around the concept of a mining village and not just being a small part of it. We could really do a bunch of really like larger, bigger pieces along those lines. Yeah,
and there's a balance that you have to strike in there, right? You don't want to put so much moving, busy stuff all over the map that it's distracting, but you can get a lot of benefit out of doing what Richard's describing, which is creating these bigger kind of set pieces almost that give the map an entirely different feel than even when it's static.
And Christopher, was there any tech that you had to add to create some of those moving pieces and some of the stuff that we haven't seen before?
Yeah, I mean, in Summoner's Rift, we really hadn't done anything like this with kind of dynamic objects that are animating and moving, and so we had to build some new tech so artists could do this. And we did it in such a way that artists could kind of play with it themselves and place it themselves and move it around themselves, and so it was a very kind of gave a lot of power to the artists. And so they did some interesting and surprising things with on Dominion that kind of made the map look a lot more 3D as the drills come through the ground and kind of show off those aspects of it. So it ended up working out really well.
Yeah, one challenge technology-wise that we ran into is like we have some buildings in Summoner's Rift, the towers and the Nexus, right? But they don't really have animations associated with them, and so creating this construct that was not an attackable object, right? Like all the towers and the Nexus and stuff are in Summoner's Rift, but have animations that are kind of this in between a character and a building. Took a lot of finagling in our system, right? Because that concept didn't exist before we began.
And I guess one other thing to follow up there too was one of the major things that we wanted to do with Dominion was really craft these heroic moments, these epic moments where a battle can sort of turn on the tide, right? So we have these 5 points on the map, and each one of them has a very distinguishable element, so that when you're recounting the story of how it was a 3-2 game, and you had a giant fight, and you were Udyr and you were taking down another champion like Renekton, and you were explaining that, and you were saying, when I was at the quarry, we had this giant fight, and basically by allowing you to have that ability to take a look and really identify with each single one of those 5 sections of the map, you could really make those heroic moments come alive.
Yeah, from a design standpoint, it was very important for us to attach landmarks around each of the capture point, that they simply weren't the top point, the southwest point, etc. And so we settled on focusing on large animated structures around each of those points to provide that character and provide that context to the points.
Yeah, if you look at the announcements in the game, right, it doesn't say the north point has been captured, it says the windmill has been captured, right? And so, because it's very easy to look at that and just say, even in the game world, just say like, oh, that's, this is very clear the windmill as indicated by this giant moving window.
Yeah, and while we're on the topic of the points, was the kind of final layout the first layout that you guys tried, or was there?
Yeah, totally.
Oh yeah, right.
You are geniuses.
We nailed that one
from the beginning.
I've told this story a few times, but I think Richard, Ryan, and myself all sat down and we said, all right, well, we know we want to do this capture and hold, what eventually became known as Dominion gameplay, and I can still remember it very vividly. We all had whiteboards and we drew out the map and we're like, this is the layout, and we all had different ones. And we're all like, this is the one that it's going to be. I think there's like some horseshoes and weird shapes and, boxes, and none of them were even remotely close.
Yeah.
At all.
That's pretty much true. When, from the outset, we kind of knew that we wanted a 5-point capture map because, tying back to what I said earlier, we really wanted a map where it wasn't possible to sit on points. And we thought by moving from a 5-point implementation as opposed to a 3-point, that would help alleviate a lot of those problems, right? Because that's a large number of points for a team of, a group of 10 players to fight over at any given time, right? But Travis is absolutely right. Like the first layout we did was like a horseshoe. Then we tried a 5 on a die, that you can imagine. Then we also tried a reverse Z. And as we iterated through a lot of these implementations, the reason that we ended up settling on the more circular layout that you see right now is actually minions. So minions are a really important part of the MOBA gameplay. I mean, if you look at League of Legends, you've got characters like Annie, Nunu, Nasus, who all have abilities that play directly off of minions being around and readily available in the map. So figuring out how to integrate minions into capture and hold gameplay was actually one of the largest challenges for us to make this mode feel like League of Legends, to feel like a MOBA, to feel like capture and hold, and that all to work together. And so when we came up with the idea of minions moving between the capture points, we found that layouts like a 5 die or reverse Z proved to be a bit problematic, because any capture point then wouldn't necessarily have the same number of minion lanes connecting it as other points on the map. So some lanes would actually be under a lot more pressure than minions from other ones. This created a lot of imbalance and actually pushed towards the ability to hold certain points over others. So we shifted to the circular layout that we have now, specifically because it allows every capture point to only have 2 minion lanes associated with it. So now there's not any integrated force into the map that makes it necessarily easier or harder to assault a point.
Yeah, and Richard mentions a few champions or whatever, and it was really important to us. It was a clear goal that we set out with, that we were never going to have this mode restrict which champions you could play on, right? Like, imagine your favorite champion, and and then saying, oh, I'm really excited about Dominion, and oh, but you can't use your favorite champion on it, right? And so, we knew that was a challenge that we had to solve, and one of the things was the layout figured directly into that. Actually, it doesn't seem like it would, but that was a large chunk of it.
It was actually a big surprise from us design side as we were iterating through it, how much simple things like that really changed the viability of different archetypes on the map.
Great. We're starting to talk a little bit about gameplay, and that's a good transition. Let's just I have another video that I'd like to share with you guys as we just to set up the discussion about gameplay, and then we'll get right back to it.
League of Legends Dominion is the largest update ever. So we wanted to create a new game mode for League of Legends, and specifically capture and hold, because the capture and hold mechanics add a lot of really cool elements that don't exist in Summoner's Rift. Veteran League of Legends players will really love Dominion because it really boils down the best elements of the game they already know and love into a short and intense 20-minute gameplay session.
There's 5 capture points on the map, and they all start in a neutral state. So it's kind of a race at the beginning for players to establish a strong foothold early in the match. Throughout the game, players are constantly switching between capturing points, trying to overtake them, as well as defending points that are being assaulted.
There's more combat, it's more intense. Games are a lot shorter. They can go from 10 to 20 minutes, and you also progress your character a lot quicker. So people are getting Infinity Edges, Last Whispers, things like that, 10-15 minutes in. We really tried to create as much drama and excitement and back and forth as we possibly could. Death timers are far lower than Summoner's Rift. The rate at which you're killing opponents and being killed is much quicker. It's just a much more frantic pace. For experienced players, there's a whole new layer of teamwork to master in terms of how you can fake an attack on a point, or how you can group up to take a point, how you can group up to defend. While Summoner's Rift requires exceptional teamwork to win, I think it only requires it at certain key points of the game. Whereas in Dominion, I think that great teamwork is rewarding all the time.
Dominion is fast and Dominion is fun. The game is focused around small skirmish team fights. So 1v1, 2v2, 2v3 if you're unlucky. Each game is about 20 minutes in length on average, and we really feel that it just captures a lot of the awesome parts of classic League of Legends without some of the slower parts. The game's never really over until the very last second. It's always possible to come back in Dominion, and so there's no feeling of inevitable loss.
We've also included a new feature in Dominion that we first revealed in Battle Training, which is the idea of quests. These quests will appear over the course of the game and basically incentivize you to perform particular actions on the map. For instance, maybe you receive a quest that says, hey, control the bottom 2 points and you'll get a large reward. These sort of quests then break up the flow and change things from what the standard approach may be at the given time.
Dominion is a great example of how League of Legends will continue to push our genre forward. We put a huge amount of resources behind Dominion. This is a project that has been massive in scope. It's involved artists, engineers, designers. It's a massive effort with dozens and dozens of people that have been spending months working on this fantastic update. It creates this really interesting mechanism that has the whole Riot staff totally addicted to it and wanting to play it constantly. We think our players will really enjoy it as well.
Wait for the fist. Oh, okay.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, there we go.
Got to follow through. It's as if both that video and this panel have experts on Dominion. It's weird. Recognize
funny how that works.
Amazing. So, Christopher, did you have to add any new tech to support the new gameplay of Dominion?
Yeah, like very early on, we kind of realized that Dominion was different. As Richard said, we're kind of bringing a new type of gameplay to the MOBA genre. We knew that kind of the old school way that we built Summoner's Rift was probably not going to work for Dominion. We really needed something that was going to let designers iterate as fast as possible so that they could find the fun in this new capture and hold gameplay. And so we kind of got together, the engineers and designers got together, and we worked that out, and we built like a whole new level scripting system and a whole new tool that we call the Summoner tool. And this is a cool tool that like puts the power into the hands of the designer. And it lets them experiment, it lets them iterate really fast, and it lets them make awesome stuff easily. So they were able to try out a bunch of different stuff to get this capture and hold gameplay awesome. And this is kind of like the secret sauce, I think, for how we were able to do this. So
yeah, we had go ahead. So we had used Summoner Script starting out. It was actually, we started developing about a year ago now, right? And the first time you guys actually saw any results from it was battle training. And it was also then used again for co-op versus AI. The system is basically built on the idea of behavior trees, if any of you are familiar with it. And Dominion was really the first instance of us using it for the core game rules on the map. Now, you should keep in mind that this means that at the same time we're building a new game mode, we're also trying to build the scripting system to write the said game mode. It's kind of like putting the plane together while you're flying it. It was pretty rough, but I mean, if we had done it any other way, like very hard-coded approach, we would have been stopped dead so many times during the course of the project. I mean, in terms of the core gameplay, it's changed a lot. We talked about different map layouts. There were like a bunch of fundamental things that we changed over the course of the game. There was one implementation that we tried, I guess a couple of months ago now, where when you capture points, minions would walk to the center of the map, pick up gold, and then return back to the capture points. And that's actually how you scored points in the game, right? And without this type of dynamic scripting system, which Christopher was very instrumental on, we wouldn't have been able to pivot as quickly as we would need to based on the type of feedback that we're getting. Because in the Dominion project, we were playtesting 2-3 times every day and always iterating for the next playtest.
Yeah, we played a lot of Dominion.
Yeah. But play a lot, still play a lot.
And tell me